Hi, everyone. This is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and these are your sun and rising sign horoscopes for the month of November 2021. In this video, we're going to take a look at the air signs, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. So let's begin by putting Libra on the ascendant and taking a look at what's happening. Um, I'm going to, as I often do, I'm going to break up some of the big transits of the month into sort of like blocks and sections. One thing that you'll notice is that there is a lot of action in your home sign this month if you're a Libra. Venus, your ruling planet, is in your home sign. That's fantastic. Mercury is retrograding at the start of the month in Libra, but with Venus there, co-present in the same sign, that's a pretty good Mercury, especially because Mercury is going to turn direct and move forward again right away. The big story of the month is that these planets in Libra are overcoming the stellium of planets in Capricorn, Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn. Mercury at the beginning of the month is squaring Saturn, stations, turns direct, squares Saturn again. This all in the first 7 or 8 days of the month. Between the 15th and the 19th, Venus will square Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn between the first and the fourth houses. And then right around the 9th, Venus will also oppose Mars retrograde in your seventh house, and Mars retrograde is turning direct on the 14th. That's like the summary of the most important dates spreading across three cardinal houses in your birth chart that are obviously the cardinal houses are the powerhouses. So these are going to be very dynamic transits that you're more likely to feel than any others. So, how would we classify all of this? Well, don't forget, let's throw in that Jupiter is also conjoining Pluto in your fourth house this month, and that happens on the 12th. So, if you put that all together, let's just recap. You've got Mercury square Saturn twice in the first couple of days of the month. Then you've got Venus opposing Mars across the first and the seventh house by the 9th. Then you've got Jupiter conjoining Pluto in your fourth on the 12th of the month. Then from the 15th to the 19th, Venus will square Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn first to the fourth again. So these are the houses where most of the action is taking place. There's a few other transits outside of this for the month, but these are the astrological events of November. So the first house is focused on you, your health, your body, your mindset, your sense of what compels us to act in the world. A couple of things: our sense of duty, our sense of needing to serve something bigger than ourselves, and our own need for pleasure or happiness. Venus in your first house right now is really placing a very strong emphasis on self-care, um, refining your choices, your decisions, your behaviors, habits, and patterns so that you are doing a better job of addressing your own needs, your own happiness, and also serving the things that really make you happy, serving the things that are bigger than yourself that make you happy. But the Venus is focused on that this month. For you, that's naturally going to involve themes like harmony, friendship, beauty, agreement, compromise, resolution with others when conflicts come up. You're good at that because you're the kind of you have that Venusian energy. However, you are going to have to overcome some degree of heavier, weightier themes around home, family, roots, parents, ancestry, or family karma, a living environment that are presenting themselves through that stellium in Capricorn this month. You've had these energies in your fourth house for a while. This is sort of the grand finale, especially with Jupiter conjoining Pluto in the fourth house. Look for themes of catharsis and transformation relative to the topics of home and hearth. The more intimate sphere, our roots, where we call home, and who lives or shares space with us in the that area of life. And then you're also dealing with a Venus who's going through this oppositional tension with Mars, god of war, in the house of interpersonal relationships, romance, marriage, partnerships, and so forth. So there are tensions, these themes are kind of vying for your attention in different areas of your life at once. On the one hand, again, you have the need for, at the heart of this month, I would say, if you're a Libra, is the need to focus on yourself and focus on what brings you happiness, joy, pleasure, the themes of beauty. It's very important because Venus is very well dignified, and overcoming the fourth house themes, that you not succumb to the pressures and heaviness that might be there around home and family this month, or the pressures that might be there in intimate or personal relationships. Be yourself, do the best version of you. Libra, sometimes, you can be so concerned with being the harmonizing person in any situation, or appearing agreeable or likable to others. Um, don't let that be your downfall this month either. That's probably another good message for the month. All right. So if we go forward to another pretty important transit that's happening this month, right around the, what is it, the 14th? Yeah, the 14th. On the 14th of the month, we're going to see a new moon taking place in your second house of money and finances. This is a very important theme because a little bit later in the month, if you track this forward, say to the 16th and 17th, Mercury will oppose Uranus between the second and eighth houses. And then if you go forward to, say, the 27th of the month, Venus will eventually be in Scorpio in your second house, opposing Uranus in the eighth. So this new moon energy in your second house of money and finances suggests that there is some imminent changes happening there around your resources, around business or bills or expenditures, as well as things that you own or possess, your approach to money or finances, things that you're trying to build or grow or develop through your own work or effort. Those are all themes of the second house that will be blossoming over the course of the next lunar cycle, but they will also be coming into dialogue this month, especially around the 16th, 17th, and then the 27th, with Uranus in the eighth house, a place that is related to our karmic debts or obligations to others or their obligations to us. And so there's this potential for some kind of more intense conversation between, say, your money and a spouse's money or income, or money and debts, or money and loans, or my values versus someone else's values, or buying and selling things or exchanging things. So watch for those energies to be pronounced. Then finally, when you go to the 30th of the month, big time of the month for everybody. But this is a lunar eclipse day in Gemini, falling into your ninth house, which is the place of the higher mind, religion, spirituality, academics, also foreign countries. There is a theme of mental, intellectual, potentially spiritual, or even ideological transformation occurring in your life right now. It could involve learning or studying something new. It could involve the theme of teachers and students, and things involving schools or education, or even something involving a foreign place, culture, country, people, travel abroad, something like that. Watch for those themes to become really pronounced. This is deeper, more intense transformation happening around these topics because we're talking about a lunar eclipse. But the effects may take a while to play out, and these themes will repeat over and over again as we have more eclipses to come in Gemini next spring, and then again next fall by the end of it, by the end of the nodes transiting through Gemini and Sagittarius. All right, so that's what I've got for you. If you're a Libra rising, we're going to run it back and start over with Aquarius on the ascendant. So if you are an Aquarius rising, let me put your sign here on the ascendant. Oh, here we go. So the same areas that everyone is dealing with this month between Libra and Capricorn, and between Libra and Aries, they're playing out across the 9th, 12th, and 3rd houses in your chart. Now, let's try to put this into context. Mercury at the beginning of the month in Libra will square Saturn twice in the first 7 days, once retrograde and then once direct. Then you'll have Venus in Libra opposing Mars in Aries by, excuse me, the 12th of the month, or excuse me, the 9th of the month, I should say. Then you're going to get a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction by the 12th. That's a big deal. And then between the 15th and the 19th, you're going to see Venus in Libra in the overcoming square to Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn all simultaneously. So those are some major transits this month, and they're all falling across the same houses. You're talking about the 9th house, the 3rd house, and the 12th house. So the 9th house, the place of higher thought, higher mind, talking about a house that's related to belief, ideology, doctrines, teachings, teachers, universities, mysticism, even monasteries and astrology were both associated with the 9th house. Then what you're saying is that there's a Venusian energy in that space this month. Venus is, of course, the goddess of peace, harmony, love, beauty. So you're harmonizing things on the level of the higher mind this month. There's an energy of peace, beauty, and balance that is trying to establish itself. But it has to also fight through Mars retrograde in the third, which could be more rebellious and combative mental energy that's appearing in relationships. And it also has to overcome the weight of a Saturnine stellium in the 12th house, Jupiter in its fall, Pluto and Saturn, with a big catharsis from Jupiter and Pluto in the 12th house. So what does this mean? Well, if you're an Aquarius rising, this month you could say is about trying to, if you don't already have a way of, what do I want to say? It's a good month to rely on your beliefs and higher thought and higher principles to guide you through a period that is potentially more turbulent, that could get you into trouble if you remain obstinate or stubborn or overly rigid or combative mentally or emotionally with others. The need for flexibility, grace, compromise, beauty, and to find higher truths that can guide you through a period of turmoil or transition that might be marked by a sudden cathartic element with Jupiter and Pluto conjoining in your 12th house. Jupiter and Pluto's conjunction can mean that some degree of inner doubt, stagnation, corruption, uncertainty, even laziness is being addressed and sort of detonated somehow. And with Mars retrograde in the third house, you know, it could be a month where you're very willful and or feeling defeated in some way. And Venus and Mercury in the ninth house, you could see it as the appeal to a higher source of reason, some beautiful place that you can call on for aid or help, whether those are teachers or teachings. But your beliefs will guide you through the challenges and turmoil of the month. And think to yourself, if there isn't a peaceful resolution here, it might not be worth saying what's on my mind. If there isn't a way of making my way through the difficulties in a way that is peaceful and harmonious, I will wait until that way opens. I won't just ram ahead. Those are some thoughts that come to my mind if you're an Aquarius this month. Now, there's also a really big new moon in Scorpio that's falling in your 10th house. That energy comes through right about on the 14th of the month. Then what's really interesting is, okay, so there's a seed being planted around your professional life. So there's some big changes that are going to take place there over the course of, say, the next month, all the way almost to the end of the year. That's good, especially considering that the ruler, Mars, is stationing and turning direct. If you have felt stagnant or stuck or unable to move forward or sort of frustrated, expect some kind of momentum change that could start to yield positive results, especially in your career and especially in terms of being able to address or deal with something that has immobilized you or set you back or frustrated you. Watch for that to come through starting around the 14th with the new moon, but then Mars turning direct on the 14th as well. And then Venus will also oppose Uranus and Mercury will oppose Uranus. Mercury opposes Uranus. You can see it's forming right here. About the 16th and 17th. Here's Venus. So that's Mercury opposing Uranus. Venus will enter Scorpio, and then Venus will oppose Uranus as well by the 27th. There's also this interesting way in which the 14th onward, there starts to also appear the theme of Uranus and revolution at the roots, upheaval, change, transformation, defiance, changing or breaking the paradigm around home, family roots, family karma, living environment. And those changes start to come through really rapidly in the second half of the month. And that's a big part of this lunar cycle to come for you as well, is not only, a kind of turnaround with regard to career or some new chapter that is appearing in your life regarding career and the turnaround implied by Mars turning direct. But it's also that Uranus at the roots is trying to stimulate that change by saying there's going to be some upheaval or some need for greater freedom or independence or inventiveness around the topics of home, family, roots. There's going to be some revolution at the roots that's part of this, the alchemy of the month ahead. So watch for that 10th house theme of career to be sort of amplified by changes happening around home and family, especially later in the month. All right. So last but not least, at the very end of the month, we're going to see on the 30th, our here we go. Let me put Aquarius back on the ascendant. You're going to see a lunar eclipse in the sign of Gemini in your fifth house. Now, the fifth house is traditionally called the joy of Venus, and it is a place related to pleasure, romance, even sex, and creativity and the arts, but also pregnancy and children. So anytime you see an eclipse happening in a house, it's like a sign that there will be major transformation occurring around that area with those topics in mind. So, and this is something that happens not just once, but multiple times. You're going to get an eclipse now. You'll get some next spring. The eclipses kind of finally conclude next fall. So there's a process going on here that could involve changes regarding your children or changes involving having children or getting pregnant. Sometimes there will also be the relationships with your children will be of in the spotlight, and it's really obviously it's hard to say whether that'll be for good or for bad or more challenging or kind of more exciting and like that without seeing the specifics of people's charts. But the focus is on the house of children. You can also see the potential for questions or conversations about pleasure. Do I have enough of it in my life? Or is there too much of it? Am I going to excess in some area? So eclipses in this house tend to bring up what do we do for fun, or where do we find joy or pleasure, and is it healthy or not? Is there enough of it or not? So watch for those themes to be important as well. All right, we're going to run it back one more time and take a look at Gemini rising. So if you are a Gemini rising, this is a huge month for you because the eclipse that's happening at the end of the month is in your home sign. But before we get there, let's unpack some of the other transits that are happening throughout the month. You have, again, the main focus of the month is from Libra to Capricorn with a little exchange between Venus and Mars. And this highlights the 11th, 8th, and 5th houses of your chart. Now, the 11th and 5th houses are generally very positive. Overall, they tend to signify good fortune, good influences from people. Like the 11th house is connected to Jupiter, groups, allies, friends, benefactors. The 5th house, good fortune, joy, pleasurable things, usually with a little bit more of that sense of recreation and enjoyment involved. Now, a Mars-Venus opposition across this house this month on November 9th could signal that there are questions about the ethics, the morality, the virtues of groups of people or of people that you are friends with or close to. For example, you could very easily see questions about whether or not I want to associate with certain kinds of people or certain groups of people because I'm not sure if their values match with mine, or I'm not sure it's really fun. I'm not sure I'm really getting any joy or satisfaction out of this kind of person or people in my life. It could also highlight very different values or needs coming into conflict in your social life between yourself and others. The other thing that's happening here is that your own needs and values might be changing this month as both Mercury and Venus are in the process of going through overcoming squares to this big stellium in Capricorn. Mercury will square Saturn twice in the first 7 days or so of the month. Venus will overcome Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn between the 15th and the 19th. Right? So there's and Venus is in the powerful position, really placing an emphasis on joy, creativity, fun, pleasure. It's kind of like I feel like your theme this month should be honor the need for fun, play, creativity, childlike, joyful, inspiring qualities, and be careful of the challenges or demands that might come in through people who you have some kind of value differences with in groups of people. I think that's one of the big themes of the month for Geminis. But on the other hand, if someone's challenging you to look at or reflect upon your values in a way that is uncomfortable, it could be that you need to. And so don't be completely shut down to people offering you some kind of feedback that you need. The question is also about debts or obligations that you have to other people this month or that other people have to you. And that's a theme of the 8th house, right? There's a real heavy energy in your 8th house this month, which is not necessarily easy. Jupiter, Pluto in that house can mean that the sort of detonation of eighth house themes, which can include death and, of course, the rebirth that often comes with death. It's not usually literal, but as well, the eighth house can indicate Jupiter Pluto can mean that a debt is being lifted. Sometimes when people die or pass, it's amazing how you'll see it as a kind of Jupiter eighth house theme, where it's like this big moment of expansion, abundance, and happiness or growth, but it's coming through death or loss. Jupiter Pluto could mean some kind of riches or a sense of positive transformation, but it may involve, the kind of death and letting go that the eighth house often entails. So you're going to watch for that. That Jupiter Pluto conjunction comes through the 12th. So watch for karmic debts and obligations to others to be released, or for those themes to be really intensified right around the 12th. Now, Venus, and again, is going to kind of be overcoming these themes and focusing on creativity, pleasure, joy, happiness. So don't worry, because I think it's going to be a pretty good month overall. Now, if we go forward, there's also a new moon. And the new moon comes in on, let's see, the 14th in Scorpio. And that new moon is going to occur in the sixth house, which is a place that is sometimes associated with conflict, especially conflict around friends or groups of people. And you're going to see that the host of that planet is Mars, stationing and turning direct on the same day in Aries in the 11th house. So I would look for the potential for there to be conflicts in relationships, especially with friends or groups or organizations, possibly creative differences or something to do with how you seek or need happiness, joy, pleasure, what your values are and what someone else's are. I would be careful about trying to hash everything out, like maybe just allowing differences to exist, allowing yourself to be you, to value and enjoy what you enjoy, and to not be pushed around too much by what other people like or what other people need. Sometimes, especially socially, you could be in a group of people and you could notice that their values are very different than yours, but they're not telling you that you need to change or be any different. And sometimes we preemptively think that we need to have a conflict with someone just because they have different values than us, and we feel defensive, or we feel like we have to preemptively sort of address some big difference we have. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just can allow these differences to exist. Anyway, with the new moon in Scorpio in the sixth house, a place that's associated with work, hardship, and labor, as well as conflicts, enemies, and war. This was traditionally the house of Mars. This place, disposed of by that Mars retrograde turning around, could also mean that you're about to start mending fences somehow with friends, or with your social life is maybe going to transform for the better, especially given that Mars is turning direct. But don't be surprised if there's also some need to separate or distance yourselves from something, or to quit, or like if I'm a part of a group I don't want to be a part of anymore. There's some social dynamic in my life that needs to change, or I need to be more outspoken, or something like that. Mercury is going to oppose Uranus on the 16th and 17th. Venus will eventually hop into Scorpio and also oppose Uranus by the 27th. So there is this energy of like provocation this month. And I guess the overall feeling I get is that, pick and choose your battles carefully, and be careful that it's not that every single thing needs to be addressed or duked out. So let some things pass. I think this month is probably a good one if you're a Gemini. And you may also need to make some hard decisions this month. The Venus in Libra energy oftentimes is faced with having to make difficult decisions or judgments, and you may feel pressure from different areas in your life this month saying, hey, look, you've got to make a decision about something. So, use your best judgment and don't shy away from challenges as you do so. You can find a way to peacefully do it if you set your mind to it in the beginning, saying, you know what, I'm going to find a peaceful way of doing something difficult. It will probably turn out that way. Venus is in an overcoming position over all those planets in Capricorn that want to make it feel like it's a lot harder than it maybe is. Finally, on the 30th of the month, there is a full moon that's taking place. And this full moon, let's put Gemini back on the ascendant, lunar eclipse, and it's in your own home sign. You are ready to close the door on something you've been working on or dealing with or working through for a long time this month. And the eclipses in your home sign, as well as in the seventh house next month, suggests that it is a time of personal growth and transformation. Your identity, your focus, your time and energy, what you feel compelled to serve that's bigger than yourself, what brings you happiness, questions about life direction, health. These are all front and center right now. It is an existential time for Geminis, and at the same time, you're going to have eclipses pouring through the seventh house of relationships. As you change, new relationships are going to enter your life, or some relationships may leave your life. That's happening in some ways as you're also getting clear on what are your priorities, intellectually, mentally, in terms of how you spend your time and energy. So it's a good time to get clear on those things, and also a good time to start letting go of things that are maybe resolving themselves right now. For example, I know someone who is has a book coming out, and the conclusion of this book will be the end of a chapter in their life, for example, and that's perfectly in line with a Gemini eclipse in the first house for a Gemini, or for a Gemini rising. That you've just been working on a creative project for years, and now it's coming to a close. What are you going to do next? Who are you now? Those are the questions that sometimes come with resolution or completion of something, and that's what lunar eclipses often signify. So a time of personal transition. Really take time for yourself right now to ask, who am I and where am I going? If you focus on that more than conflicts with other people, don't externalize that conflict. In other words, if you can help it, try to work out that conflict within yourself, because it may be that you're at a point where you need to reassess your values and your priorities going forward. All right, so that's what I've got for the air signs this month. I hope you guys have a great month of November. Please leave your comments and stories in the chat box. I love to hear from you guys. Don't forget my new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, starts on November 14th. There's an early bird payment. You can save $500 off if you sign up before class starts. There are payment plans, and there's need-based tuition if anyone is hurting, especially due to COVID-19. So I hope to see some of you in class soon. Check it out on my website. Email me if you have any questions, info@nightlightastrology.com. All right, take it easy, everyone. Bye.